Hello everybody. A lot of people seem to have a problem on how to set up east-west instruments with Reaticulate in Reaper. I want to show you how it's done, and I also want to give you my templates I have done so far and the rebanks files I have written for those. The first thing you want to do is open up an instance of Play. As an example, I want to set up the first violin. So the first thing I do is, of course, select the first violin and play. And then I will have to pick the different articulations I want to use. In this case, I want to use a Legato articulation. I can just set up the first one with a double click. And the next one I will always have to add with the add button here. So the other one I want is a sustain. I would also like to have some short articulations. In this case, I want a marcato, a staccato, a staccatissimo, a spiccato, a pizzicato, and then let's add some effects like tremolo and the half-tone and whole-tone thrills. All the articulations we can now see on the right side here. Each articulation has a different MIDI channel it's on. So the Legato here is on the first MIDI channel. I could change that if I want to. The sustain is on the second one, marcato on the third one, and so on. If you haven't configured Reaticulate yet and can't see the Reaticulate window on the right side, you can always start it over the Actions button. You can search for it in the action list and just search for Reaticulate. And you want to start the script Reaticulate main. I have set it up so it always starts when I boot Reaper. The next step we want to do is set up a viabank file. To access our viabank files, we can use the little pen over here and either edit the viabank file, our general one, in Notepad, open it in default app, or just show it in Explorer. I want to go a bit more into detail and actually write one of the bank files here. If you just want to use pre-written bank files, just skip ahead in the video. I will put a timestamp where you can watch that part. To create a new bank, which is like the instrument, you will have to start with a double slash and exclamation mark. After that, this is just like the declaration. You will have to say which kind of folder you want to have it in. In this case, it would be east-west/Hollywood strings. And then the actual name of the instrument. In this case, I would call it first violin. As I have already prepared this in another file, in my real file, I can show you how it would look like in Reaticulate right now. So first, let me actually add a Reaticulate here. And then we add a new bank. And now what I have done here is the east-west/Hollywood strings. And the N, the name, is the first violin. Let's go back to the file again. As you see, east-west/Hollywood strings/first violin. Again, east-west Hollywood strings, first violin. Oh, I've written it a bit wrong here. This is the first thing that's important, so actually you can find your bank files. Then you have to declare the bank number. For that you have two numbers. They have to be unique. So if you download different bank files, make sure that these two numbers, that you never have the same number combination anywhere else in your bank file. Otherwise, Reaticulate won't be able to find your bank file. And then you put in a short name. I will call it EWHS for East-West Hollywood Strings, first violin. So now we can start setting up our articulations. The first one is the Legato articulation. We start with a double slash, an exclamation mark, and a C for color. The color names can be found on the Reaticulate homepage. This color is now called Legato. And then we can choose the icon, again, Legato. And now comes the important part, the message, which should be used to actually trigger the articulation. This is started with an O, and an at says select a different MIDI channel. So legato is on the first MIDI channel. Now we can go into the next line, pick a number. This one needs to be unique for this bank file. And we now can give the articulation a name. Again, legato. And our first articulation is set up. We can do the same for the sustain. In this case, the color is called long for long notes. The icon is a whole note. You can find the different icon names on the Reaticulate homepage as well. And this one is triggered on the second MIDI channel. And we call this one sustain. I will do one more here. This is the Mikado. And the color in this case is short dark. The icon is the Mikado icon. And we want to trigger it on the third MIDI channel, as you can see in our play instance, which we have open in the background. And this one is called Mikado. I have quickly skipped over the other articulations, so we can actually start looking at the thrill articulation. There's one special thing about it. We have the halftone and the whole tone thrill in one articulation, and they use a key switch to go between halftone and whole tone. So we need a bit more of a complex articulation here. Let's set up the first basic stuff again. The color, in this case, is FX. And the icon is the thrill minor second. So we start with a halftone thrill. And this message, of course, is the same one again. We want to go to the 9th MIDI channel, but we also want to send a note signal on the same channel. So note at 9 means we send a note signal on the 9th MIDI channel, and 24 is the note which triggers the halftone. And we call it trilled halftone. Now let's set up the whole tone as well, which is now the symbol for the trill major second. Again, this one is also on the 9th MIDI channel. And we also send a note signal on the 9th channel, but this one, 25, one halftone up. And this one is the trill's whole tone. With the bank file written, it's time to set the rest up. So first, let me actually switch this window and get my actual viabank file, which looks like this. It's the reaticulate.viabank file. Make sure that it's saved and go back into Reaper. We now add the Reaticulate FX to the channel, added the track banks, and add one bank. In this case, we use the East-West, Hollywood strings, first violin. You can now go back here, and as you can see, we have all our articulations set up. So how does this work now? If we input any MIDI signal into this channel, Reaticulate will make sure that it's routed into the correct MIDI channel, depending on which articulation is selected. I will now play something with my keyboard. So as you see, depending on which articulation I have selected, the same MIDI signal was routed through different channels. So how do you use this in our writing process? Well, that's very easy. For example, let's create a small MIDI lane here. Draw in a few notes. So we have a few MIDI notes here, and we need to make sure that we can see the lane bank program selected. Let's start with some legato here. So we select this note where legato should start, double click on legato here, and it's now entered down here. This one should be spiccato. And these last ones should be on Marcato. Let's play this back. Oh, I forgot some mod wheel in there and some expression. Of course, here the spiccato is a bit too harsh, so we would need to pull it down back a bit, but that's just the writing process. If you don't want to write the viabank files yourself, I have prepared a few things for you. In the video description you will find a link to a Google Drive folder where I've set up several files for you. They are the different TXT files, one for brass, one for strings, one for woodwinds, in which you can find pre-written viabank files. Let's take a look at the string, for example. And as you can see, everything is set up here. All you have to do is take these and copy-paste them into your main Reaticulate file and make sure that there are no double bank files. I have also created different track templates for all the instruments in the viabank files. All you have to do is download them and drag them into Reaper. They will create a new track with the East-West Play instrument, Gold Edition, in them and the viabank file in it. If you had to change the bank numbers, this won't work anymore and you have to readjust the viabank again, but that should be easy. I really hope that this video helped you set up your own viabank files or use Reaticulate in Reaper. This was my first video, so I'm super happy if you can give me some feedback on what other topics I should cover or what I can improve on. So yeah, have a nice day everybody.